Remember, even within several years when his son Bo died. You finally make the statement on page 248, quote, "For these jurors, Mr. Biden's apparent lapses and failures in February and April 2017 will likely appear consistent with the diminished capacities and faulty memory he showed." Those were astounding conclusions to me, and as I looked through those quotes, I have to say I hearken back to my time before Congress. I was a judge, and one of the things that I oversaw was guardianships. And frankly, when I read your conclusions, red flags began to go up in my mind because I oversaw hundreds of guardianships back in Texas. And as I saw your conclusions, I began to wonder, what does the D.C. statute say about guardianships and how you define an incapacitated individual in Washington, D.C.? And I want to show you this statute because I presume, are you familiar with the statute at all?
I am not, Congressman.
So I didn't think that you'd probably reviewed that. So let me just read to you some of these, some of the definitions here. An adult whose ability to receive and evaluate information effectively or to communicate decisions is impaired to such an extent that he or she lacks the capacity to manage all or some of his financial resources. That's the first part of the definition of incapacity, an incapacitated individual under the guardianship statute in the District of Columbia. And quite frankly, I see tons of overlap from what you set forth in your testimony, in your written report, and the definition here. The phrases are almost identical. I would posit that if he cannot manage national top secret resources, I'm not sure how he can manage his personal financial resources. And given your report's findings that his memory was, quote, significantly limited, and that he is a person with, quote, diminished faculties, and with, quote, faulty memory, it makes me wonder how close he is coming to meeting this definition of an incapacitated individual, such that he should have a guardian appointed by the D.C. courts for his personhood. There is at least, I believe, a prima facie argument to say that there is substantial evidence to indicate such. And you mentioned it's not just what you've written in the report, but it was the demeanor of President Biden as you interviewed him. I'll say in conclusion, whether he does or does not meet this definition, I believe your findings raise significant concerns about his current fitness for the office of the president, and certainly his fitness going forward in the future. And I appreciate the fact that you were brazen enough to raise this issue in this report because you knew this would be significant in your findings, but you did so based on a very significant, very detailed, very thorough, independent report, and I praise you for that, doing your duty in such a way. Thank you, Special Counsel. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Mr. Herr, we have both
questions. One is with respect to the surprising line of questions you got right before we broke about guardianship, which seems to me like a dramatic stretch of the anything that was remotely involved in your report. Did you raise any kind of issues about Mr. Biden needing guardianship or anything along those lines?
Nothing relating to guardianship appeared in my report.
Okay. And so I guess you made the one point about him being an elderly man with poor memory, but are you saying did you say anywhere in your report that you thought not only would he be unfit to handle his own finances, but he'd be unfit for public office?
My report did not include any opinions on those issues.
Okay, I see my time is exhausted, but thank you again for your testimony. I appreciate your efforts.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Yield.